Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless. If you're here for it, hit subscribe and let's go.
The email arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing quarterly reports for my consulting firm. Subject line: Family Meeting Estate Planning. I opened it already knowing what I'd find. Dear Michaela, my father had written in his typical formal tone. Your mother and I are making final decisions regarding your grandmother's Florida properties. We've scheduled a meeting for this Saturday at 2 p.m. at my office. Given the complex legal and financial nature of these discussions, and considering your brother Derek's expertise in property management and his girlfriend Amanda's background as a probate attorney, we feel your presence would complicate things unnecessarily. We'll inform you of the decisions afterward. Best regards, Dad. I read it twice. Not, love Dad. Not even sincerely. Just best regards, like I was a business associate he barely knew. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Your brother's girlfriend is a probate attorney. He's helping us navigate everything. It's better this way. I set my phone down and returned to my work. I said nothing, as I didn't need to. I'd been the family disappointment for as long as I could remember. My older brother Derek was the golden child. The successful property manager, the charming son who called every Sunday, the one who understood business, because he managed Grandma's 12 Florida rental properties after she got too old to handle them herself. Me. I was the daughter who wasted her college education on a business degree, who moved to Atlanta for a glorified secretary job at a consulting firm, who showed up to family gatherings in discount store clothes, while Derek arrived in designer suits. Michaela works in an office. My mother would explain to relatives, her tone apologetic. Something with spreadsheets. We're not entirely sure what she does, honestly. Derek would laugh. She pushes papers around. Entry-level stuff. The truth was more complicated, but I'd learned early that my family wasn't interested in complicated truths. They preferred their simple narrative. Derek was the success and I was the also-ran. When I was 23, fresh out of college and working my first job as a junior analyst, I'd made the mistake of trying to tell them about a major project I'd completed. I just helped restructure a $15 million portfolio for... That's nice, honey, Mom had interrupted. Derek, tell everyone about the new property you're managing in Tampa. I'd stopped trying after that. What they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask about, was that my glorified secretary job had turned into a senior analyst position by age 26, a director role by 29, and a VP position at 32. I'd spent 8 years building relationships, proving my worth, and learning everything I could about financial management and investment strategy. At 33, I'd launched my own consulting firm specializing in real estate portfolio optimization. We were small, just me and 3 associates, but we were very, very good. Our clients included property management companies, investment firms, and family trusts looking to maximize their rental income while minimizing tax liability. I drove a practical Honda Civic because I preferred investing my money rather than displaying it. I wore discount store clothes because $1,000 suits seemed wasteful. I rented a modest apartment because I was too busy building my business to worry about impressing anyone. My family saw failure. I saw strategy. My grandmother, Helen Martinez, was different. She'd built her rental property empire from nothing, starting with a single duplex in 1978 and slowly, carefully acquiring 11 more properties across Florida over 4 decades. By 2015, she owned 12 units worth approximately $4.2 million, generating roughly $18,000 in monthly rental income. She was sharp, observant, and nobody's fool. In 2018, when she was 84 and starting to struggle with the day-to-day management, she asked Derek to take over as property manager. He jumped at the opportunity, seeing it as confirmation that he'd inherit everything. But Grandma had also started asking me questions. Real questions. Michaela, you work in finance, don't you? I do, Grandma. I help people optimize their investment portfolios. And you're good at it? Yes, ma'am. I am. She'd studied me for a long moment. Your parents don't see it, do they? I'd smiled sadly. No, ma'am. They don't. Their loss, she'd said simply. Tell me about what you do. So I did. I explained portfolio analysis, cash flow optimization, tax strategy, property valuation. I showed her my business plan, my client list, my projections. I treated her like the intelligent businesswoman she was. She listened to everything. Then in March 2019 she called me to her house for a private meeting. Her estate attorney Michael Chin was there. "Michaela," Grandma said, "I'm going to transfer all 12 properties to you via quitclaim deed. Mr. Chin has prepared the documents." I'd stared at her in shock. "Grandma, why?" "Because you're the only one who understands what I built and why it matters. Derek sees cash flow. You see legacy." She'd smiled. "Besides, you're the only one who visits me because you want to, not because you're checking on your inheritance. But Mom and Dad and Derek will assume everything comes to them when I die. Let them assume." Her eyes had been sharp and clear. "I'm not doing this to punish them, Michaela. I'm doing this to protect what I built. You'll preserve it. Derek will liquidate it within 5 years." She'd been right. Derek had already told the family he planned to cash out and invest in crypto the moment he inherited. The transfer was completed in April 2019. All 12 properties, the duplex in Jacksonville, the triplex in Tampa, the 2 fourplexes in Orlando, the single-family rentals scattered across the state, were quit-claimed to me. Recorded. Legal. Irrevocable. Grandma had been very specific. "Don't tell them yet. Let Derek keep managing the properties. Pay him his management fee. But watch the numbers carefully. You think he's stealing? I think he assumes these properties are already his and people get careless when they think they own something." I'd promised to watch carefully. And I had. Between 2019 and 2024, I lived a double life. To my family I remained Michaela the office worker. I drove my Honda Civic to their houses. I wore my discount store clothes to family dinners. I smiled politely when Derek bragged about managing the family real estate empire, and said nothing when my parents praised his business acumen. But in reality I was building something significant. My consulting firm had grown to 8 employees and 12 major clients. We were managing over $50 million in real estate assets for various family trusts and investment groups. I'd been featured in Atlanta Business Chronicle's 40 Under 40 list. I'd spoken at 2 national conferences on real estate portfolio optimization. And I was watching my 12 Florida properties very, very carefully. Derek collected a 10% management fee, $1,800 per month, for handling the properties. Reasonable compensation for the work involved. But I'd set up automated alerts on all 12 property accounts, and I reviewed every statement personally. The first irregularity appeared in August 2019. The Jacksonville duplex showed a $2,200 monthly deposit instead of the expected $2,400. Derek's report claimed 1 unit had been vacant for 3 weeks. I called the property. Both tenants answered. Both had been there all month. I said nothing to Derek. I just noted it in my private spreadsheet. The irregularities continued. Small amounts at first, $200 here, $400 there. Amounts small enough that an elderly woman reviewing statements might miss them. But I wasn't an elderly woman. I was a financial analyst with forensic training. By January 2020, I'd documented $8,300 in missing rental income. By December 2020, the total was $38,900. By December 2021, it was $94,200. Derek was getting bolder. The amounts were larger now, sometimes $800 or $1,000 per month. He was reporting emergency repairs that never happened, vacancy periods for units that remained occupied, maintenance costs with no corresponding invoices. He thought Grandma was too old to notice. He thought I didn't have access to the accounts. He thought these properties would be his eventually anyway, so what did it matter? By December 2023, I'd documented $312,000 in stolen rental income. I still said nothing. I just watched and waited. Because I knew Grandma wouldn't live forever. And I knew that when she died, my family would finally show their true colors. Grandma passed away in February 2024, 3 weeks before her 90th birthday. She went peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by photos of her properties, her life's work. I was the one who found her. I'd been visiting every Tuesday evening for dinner, our standing tradition for 5 years. At her funeral, Derek cried dramatically. She built an empire, he told everyone. And I'm going to honor her legacy by managing these properties exactly as she would have wanted. My parents nodded approvingly. It's what she would have wanted, Mom agreed. 2 weeks later the email arrived. Final estate decisions. Your presence would complicate things. My mother's text. Your brother's girlfriend is a probate attorney. They were going to divide Grandma's estate without me. More accurately, they were going to give everything to Derek and tell me after the fact. I forwarded both messages to my attorney, Patricia Williams, a real estate lawyer I'd worked with for 3 years. They don't know you own the properties? Patricia asked. No one knows except Grandma's attorney and you. And they think they're dividing an estate that doesn't exist anymore? Apparently. Patricia laughed. This is going to be spectacular. What do you want to do? I want to attend that meeting. They uninvited you. They can't uninvite the property owner from a discussion about her own properties. I smiled. I want you there too. And I want to bring the bank president. The bank president? Charles Morton from First Florida Trust. He's been reviewing my documentation of Derek's embezzlement. He has some questions for my father about the missing $465,000. Patricia's eyes widened. $465,000? It accelerated after Grandma died. Derek helped himself to 2 months of full rental income, $36,000, immediately after her funeral. He thought there was no one watching anymore. I pulled out my laptop. I have every transaction documented. Bank statements, tenant payment records, maintenance invoices he forged, the works. Your family is going to implode. Yes, I said calmly. They are. The week before the Saturday meeting I made careful preparations. I contacted Charles Morton, president of First Florida Trust, the bank that held accounts for all 12 properties. I'd worked with Charles on 2 previous client projects, and he knew my reputation for thorough documentation. Mr. Morton, I need to report suspected embezzlement from accounts I own. I spent 3 hours walking him through every transaction. He'd gone pale about 40 minutes in. This is systematic fraud, he said. We're talking about federal banking crimes. I know. And I need you to make a phone call this Saturday at 2:15 p.m. I explained the meeting, the family dynamics, the fact that they didn't know I owned the properties. Charles had smiled slowly. You want me to call in the middle of their estate planning meeting? On speakerphone. My father loves putting important calls on speaker to impress people. Ms. Martinez, this is highly unusual. Mr. Morton, my brother has stolen nearly $500,000 from accounts at your bank, and my parents are about to give him legal authority over properties he's been defrauding for 5 years. I'd say that's fairly unusual too. He'd agreed. I also contacted Patricia Williams and asked her to prepare documentation, copies of all 12 quitclaim deeds, the complete transaction history, and a preliminary embezzlement report with evidence categorized by property and date. How do you want to play this? Patricia asked. I want to walk in at exactly 2 p.m. I want to sit down quietly. And I want to see how long it takes them to acknowledge that I'm there. And when they do, I'll smile and say, please continue. This is fascinating. Finally, I did something I rarely did. I dressed to impress. Saturday morning, I drove to an upscale boutique and bought my first designer suit. Black Armani, perfectly tailored with Louboutin heels. I had my hair professionally styled. I wore the Cartier watch I'd bought myself for my 35th birthday but never wore around family. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. This was who I'd been all along underneath the discount store disguise. It was time my family met her. I arrived at my father's office building at 1:55 p.m. The downtown high-rise where he ran his insurance brokerage, the business he'd built over 30 years and was immensely proud of. Patricia met me in the lobby, carrying 2 briefcases full of documentation. You look incredible, she said. I feel like I'm going into battle. You are. But you've already won. They just don't know it yet. We took the elevator to the 12th floor. Through the glass walls of the conference room I could see my family already assembled. Mom, Dad, Derek, and a woman I didn't recognize who must be Amanda, the probate attorney girlfriend. They were laughing about something, completely relaxed. I opened the door at exactly 2 p.m. The laughter stopped. My mother's mouth fell open. Michaela? What are you? We said. That my presence would complicate things. Yes, I got the email. I walked calmly to an empty chair and sat down. Patricia sat beside me, setting her briefcases on the table with deliberate thuds. My father's face was turning red. This is a private family meeting about complex legal matters. We specifically. I'm family. And as it happens, I have some interest in the legal matters you're discussing. I smiled pleasantly. Please continue. This is fascinating. Derek leaned back in his chair, smirking. Dad, do you want me to call security? Let me save you the trouble, I said calmly. I'm the legal owner of all 12 properties you're planning to discuss. I've been the legal owner since April 2019 when Grandma transferred them to me via quitclaim deed. So unless you're planning to discuss how you're going to return the $465,000 in rental income you've stolen, Derek, there's really nothing for you to divide. The room went silent. That's insane, Derek said, but his voice had lost its confidence. Grandma would never. She did. Patricia opened her first briefcase and began laying out documents. Quitclaim deeds for all 12 properties. Recorded with the county. Dated April 15, 2019. Your grandmother transferred complete ownership to Michaela 5 years ago. Amanda, the probate attorney, pulled one of the documents toward her. I watched her face change as she read it. These are legitimate. Properly executed, witnessed, notarized, and recorded. Of course they are, I said. Grandma's estate attorney doesn't make mistakes. My mother's hands were shaking. But why would she? You don't know anything about property management. Derek has been stealing from those properties for 5 years. Yes, I know. I nodded to Patricia, who opened the second briefcase. Bank statements cascaded across the table. Transaction reports. Spreadsheets with highlighted discrepancies. Tenant payment records. Forged maintenance invoices. What is this? My father demanded. Evidence of systematic embezzlement. Derek has stolen approximately $465,000 from the rental income between August 2019 and March 2024. I pushed a summary sheet toward my father. It's all documented. False vacancy reports. Inflated maintenance cost. Forged repair invoices. Rent collected from tenants but never deposited into property accounts. Derek's face had gone from smirking to pale. That's a lie. I manage those properties exactly. You manage them into your personal bank account. I opened my laptop and turned it to face him. This is the Jacksonville duplex. You reported unit a vacant from August 15th through September 30th, 2019. Here's the tenant's signed lease showing continuous occupancy. Here's their payment record showing $1,200 paid to you personally. Here's the property account showing 0 deposit. I clicked to the next screen. Tampa triplex. You claimed $4,800 in emergency roof repairs in March 2020. Here's the roofing company's statement saying they never worked on that property. Here's your personal credit card showing a $4,800 payment to yourself on the same date. Orlando fourplex. You reported. Stop. Derek's voice cracked. Just stop. Why? You didn't stop. Not for 5 years. I looked at my father. You wanted to give him complete control over Grandma's estate. I'm showing you what he did with the partial control he already had. My father's face had gone from red to ashen. Derek, tell me this isn't true. I was going to pay it back, Derek whispered. When I inherited, I was going to. You were going to cover up your embezzlement with your inheritance? Amanda stood abruptly. Derek, I need to leave. No. I can't be associated with. Amanda, wait. She grabbed her purse and walked out without looking back. My mother was crying. How could you do this? To your own grandmother. She was old, Derek said desperately. She wasn't even checking the statements anymore. And I thought it would all be mine anyway, so what did it matter? What did it matter? I repeated softly. It mattered because it wasn't yours. It was never going to be yours. Grandma knew exactly what kind of person you were, Derek. That's why she gave everything to me. My father's phone rang, the sound jarring in the tense silence. He glanced at the screen. It's the bank. You should answer it, I said. On speaker, please. I believe Mr. Morton has been waiting to talk to you. My father's hand shook as he pressed the speaker button. Hello. Mr. Martinez, this is Charles Morton, president of First Florida Trust. I'm calling regarding the 12 rental property accounts under your mother's trust. My father shot me a confused look. Yes, Mr. Morton. We're actually in a meeting right now discussing. Sir, I need to inform you that as of our investigation this morning, your daughter Michaela Martinez is the legal account holder and property owner of all 12 properties via quitclaim deed transfer dated April 2019. Additionally, we've completed a preliminary review of suspected embezzlement, and we're prepared to file a report with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division regarding approximately $465,000 in fraudulent transactions executed by Derek Martinez between 2019 and 2024. The room was so quiet I could hear my mother's breathing. Furthermore, Charles continued, we've frozen all property accounts pending federal investigation, and we've issued a cease and desist order prohibiting Derek Martinez from accessing any account, property, or tenant related to these 12 units. We recommend you retain legal counsel immediately. My father couldn't speak. He just stared at the phone. Mr. Morton, I said calmly, this is Michaela Martinez. Thank you for the update. Please proceed with the federal filing. I'll be in your office Monday morning with my attorney to discuss next steps. Yes, ma'am. We'll have everything prepared for you. The call ended. Derek started screaming. You set me up. You knew about this for years and you just watched. I documented, I corrected. There's a difference. You set yourself up, Derek. Every forged invoice, every false report, every stolen deposit, that was all you. Dad, she's lying. She's always been jealous of me and now she's... Shut up. My father's voice was barely a whisper, but Derek fell silent. Just, shut up. Dad really looked at me for what felt like the first time in years. You knew for 5 years? I knew from the first month. August 2019. Jacksonville duplex, $200 short. And you said nothing? I said nothing because Grandma asked me to watch and document. She suspected Derek would steal once he thought he was managing his own inheritance. She was right. I met his eyes steadily. She was right about a lot of things. My mother was still crying. How could you let him keep stealing if you knew? Because stopping him at $8,000 wouldn't have shown you who he really is. But $465,000? That shows you everything. I stood up, smoothing my Armani suit. Besides, it's all documented. Every dollar. And Derek is going to pay back every single cent with interest, or he's going to federal prison for wire fraud and embezzlement. Mila, please, my mother begged. He's your brother. We're family. Are we? I asked quietly. Because family doesn't exclude people from meetings about their own property. Family doesn't send emails saying someone's presence would complicate things. Family doesn't spend decades dismissing someone's accomplishments while praising a thief. I picked up my laptop and nodded to Patricia, who began collecting our documents. Where are you going? My father asked. I have a business to run. I have 12 properties to properly manage. And I have a federal investigation to support. I paused at the door. Oh, and Dad? Your insurance brokerage uses Wilmington Trust for your business banking, correct? His face went gray. How do you know that? Because one of my consulting clients is their regional director. We've worked together for 3 years. She knows I'm very good at finding financial irregularities. I smiled. I haven't looked into your business accounts, Dad. But I could. If you'd like to keep arguing about family loyalty, I'd be happy to audit your books the same way I audited Derek's management. That's a threat, he whispered. That's a boundary, I corrected. I'm done being the family scapegoat. I'm done being dismissed and excluded and treated like I'm less than Derek when I'm the one who built a successful business, earned Grandma's trust and protected her legacy. I met each of their eyes in turn. I'm Michaela Martinez. I own a successful consulting firm. I own 12 rental properties worth $4.2 million. I've been featured in Atlanta Business Chronicle. And I'm the person Grandma chose to carry on what she built. We didn't know, my mother said weakly. You didn't ask. There's a difference. I walked out of that office with Patricia beside me and didn't look back. My phone started ringing before we reached the elevator. Derek, then Mom, then Dad. I declined all calls. In the lobby, Patricia turned to me. That was the most professionally devastating takedown I've witnessed in 15 years of practice. It needed to be done. What happens now? Now, the FBI investigates Derek for wire fraud and embezzlement. First, Florida Trust freezes his access to everything. And I take over direct management of my 12 properties with a legitimate property management company. And your family? I looked out at the Atlanta skyline. They'll have to decide if they want to be part of my life on my terms or not be part of my life at all. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Please. I'll pay everything back. Don't let them arrest me. I typed back. You should have thought about federal prison before you stole from Grandma for 5 years. Talk to your lawyer. Not me. Another text from my mother. Can we talk? Please. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my office manager. Jennifer, I need you to draft a press release. Martinez Consulting expands into full-service property management. We're going public with our new division. We have a new division? As of today, 12 properties, $18,000 monthly income, and a proven track record of forensic accounting. We're going to show the industry how property management should be done. Patricia laughed. You're turning your family's disaster into a business opportunity? Grandma would have. I smiled. She didn't build an empire by dwelling on betrayal. She built it by making smart decisions and moving forward. She chose the right heir. Yes, I said quietly. She did. The FBI investigation moved quickly. Derek's documentation was sloppy, his forgeries were obvious, and he'd left a clear paper trail linking his personal accounts to the stolen funds. He was indicted on 14 counts of wire fraud and embezzlement in May. Facing 70 years in federal prison, he took a plea deal. Full restitution of $465,000 plus $73,000 in interest and penalties, 5 years probation, 1,200 hours community service, and a permanent ban from property management in Florida. My parents paid the restitution on his behalf. They refinanced their house to do it. They stopped calling me after that. I think seeing that monthly payment reminder was too much for them. A tangible consequence of choosing Derek over me for 35 years. Amanda, the probate attorney girlfriend, left Derek the week of his indictment. She sent me a brief email. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Your grandmother was a smart woman. I didn't respond, but I appreciated the acknowledgement. Martinez Consulting launched its property management division in June. We took on 8 new properties from clients who heard about our forensic accounting capabilities and wanted that level of oversight. I hired a property manager I'd worked with on previous projects, Sarah Chin, no relation to Grandma's attorney, to handle day-to-day operations. I focused on portfolio optimization and financial oversight. The 12 Florida properties generated $216,000 in annual rental income, properly managed and fully documented. I sold the Honda Civic and bought a Tesla Model S. I moved into a downtown Atlanta penthouse with a view of the skyline. I wore my Armani suits to the office and my Louboutin heels to conferences. Not because I needed to prove anything to my family, they weren't watching anymore. But because I'd spent 35 years hiding who I was to make them comfortable. I was done hiding. In August, I received a letter from my mother. Handwritten, 6 pages long. The summary, she was sorry. They'd been wrong. Derek had manipulated them for years, but that didn't excuse the decades of dismissing me. She wanted to rebuild our relationship if I'd let her. I read it twice, then filed it away. Maybe someday I'd be ready to respond. But not yet. Instead, I framed a photo of Grandma and hung it in my office. In the picture, she's standing in front of the Jacksonville duplex. Her first property, her pride and joy. She's smiling, confident, strong. Underneath, I placed a small plaque with her favorite quote, the one she told me the day she transferred the properties. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about building something that lasts. She built an empire from nothing. I protected it from those who would have destroyed it. And now I was building something even bigger. Not for validation. Not for revenge. Not to prove my family wrong. But because that's what we Martinez women do. We build things that last. Last month, I received a call from Forbes Real Estate Council. They were doing a feature on young executives transforming property management, and wanted to interview me about Martinez Consulting's unique forensic accounting approach. The article went live last week. They used a photo of me standing in front of Grandma's Jacksonville duplex, wearing my Armani suit and holding a property report. The headline, How one woman turned family betrayal into a multi-million-dollar property empire. My phone exploded with new client inquiries within hours. I haven't heard from my parents. But that's okay. Because I finally understand what Grandma knew all along. The people who truly value you don't need you to prove your worth. They see it from the beginning. And everyone else? They're just complications you don't need. I deleted the email from my father. Final estate decisions. Your presence would complicate things, but I kept the subject line as a reminder. My presence doesn't complicate things. My presence transforms them. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve a seat at my table.